You're listening to a podcast from Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation. Farai Gwaze, The Voice, on Capital 100.4 FM, leading the conversation.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you if you've just joined us here on the Capital Drive on Capi Talk 100.4 FM, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station, leading the conversation. Don't forget to also interact with us on 0717 777 Send us your questions, comments and contributions. You can WhatsApp, voice note and call. You can also call us on line number 495-112. Now, President Mnangagwa's first 100 days in office have been a huge success, with his administration setting the economy on a recovering trajectory. The president was sworn in on November the 24th last year and completes his first 100 days in office on March the 6th. Reflecting on his first 100 days in office, the president said, "The bottom line is an economy which is back on its feet." The president also made his intentions on cleaning up and resuscitating the economy very clear, as he issued a 3-month moratorium for those who externalize funds and assets to bring them back into the country or face prosecution. The period of this amnesty stretched from December the 1st of last year to the end of February this year, meaning today. Now, the president also warned that prosecutions would follow after the expiry of the 3-month period, as his government will start to pursue those linked to externalization. Upon expiry of the 3-month window, government would proceed to effect arrest of all those who did not have complied with the directive and would ensure that they are prosecuted in terms of the country's laws. Joining me in studio to discuss this will be former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tendai Biti, Secretary General of the War Veterans Association, Comrade Victor Matemadanda, and Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers Board member, Mr. Alois Burutsa. Please feel free to keep sending in your contributions during the course of the show. Now, opening up our discussion, we'll be also looking at the concerns that have been raised on our WhatsApp platform during the course of the day. And you can keep interacting with us also on our social media platform, as we are currently live on Facebook. Now, also, we will be taking in calls during the course of the show after 4:30. So please hold off on the calls up until then. I would like at least open up our discussion to Mr. Burutsa, who joins us from the Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers. Now, fully appreciating that a 90-day moratorium has been given to ensure that funds are brought back. What is the Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers expecting the results of this moratorium to be on the economy?
Thank you, Farai. Thanks for inviting us. Look, I think the moratorium is a good thing, because naturally, as you know, as a country, we are faced with a situation whereby foreign currency especially is in very, very short supply. We actually have in a country right now whereby, in our view, the biggest challenge that we have as a nation right now is the availability of foreign currency. So hopefully the amounts that are being talked about, I hear different figures, 2 billion and so forth, that have been externalized. Obviously, if that money is to come back, that would definitely assist a lot in reviving the economy, because, as you know, yes, Zimbabwe is open for business, but as long as we do not have foreign currency, as the current situation is prevailing in the country, it's going to be very difficult for us, number one, to even attract investors, because investors will say, if I come to Zimbabwe, I will not be able to expatriate my profits and so forth. Also, if you then and with the current situation again, you will find that you are unable to, even if you're a manufacturer, you're unable even to bring in your raw materials for you to be able to manufacture. So we hope that people will heed this call and return the money, and hopefully to then contribute a lot in the turnaround of the economy, because, as I say, foreign currency, in our view, is the biggest challenge that industry is facing right now. All right, then. And I just do bring in Abiti into this discussion, especially around the issue of a foreign currency coming into the country. Is it a significant, would that be a significant enough contribution should we see these externalized funds make their way back into the Zimbabwean economy?
There's a lot of misconceptions about the issue of externalization, and I think it's typical the ambiguity and lack of clarity by this regime that has been with us since 23 November 2017. Remember, the US dollar is legal tender in this country, so we amended Section 43 of the Reserve Bank Act in 2009 to make sure that we recognized as legal tender a bundle of multiple currencies that include the US dollar, the British pound, the South African rand, and the euro, to name a few currencies. The Chinese renminbi is also in that basket. Now, when you talk of externalization, you are talking of getting foreign currency, i.e. money which is not the legal tender of that country outside Zimbabwe. So after 2009, we have to be careful now, because the US dollar is now the legal tender. So you can't externalize that which you're actually earning. I go to work and I earn US dollars. When I pay school fees or whatever outside, I'm not externalizing, because that's what I'm actually earning. It's different from the situation prior to 2009, when there was a clear demarcation between our local currency, the Zimbabwean dollar, and foreign currency, the US dollar. So part of the problem when this announcement was made by Mr. Mnangagwa in November of 2009 was that there was no legal clarity of what exactly he was talking about. Right. And remember, we were running a liberal capital account. In other words, the investor could come into Zimbabwe and bring in money, and that same investor could take in money. And in fact, the only reason why we in the GNU were able to bring in money in 2009 was because we liberalized the capital account. So when I became finance minister in February of 2009, we had a total of $250 million in Zimbabwe. We then said, let everyone bring money. We liberalized the capital account. By the end of December 2009, we had $2.8 billion circulating in the economy. By the time that the GNU reached its course in July of 2013, we had $6.5 billion circulating in this economy, which is why you were able to go at an ATM and get $4,000 and get $5,000 and get $10,000, because we had generated the income. And remember too, the economy was producing. Our average growth rate during the GNU was 7.5%. Now, production is very important. The key solution and the key problem to our economy is not money that has been externalized, in inverted commas.
Right.
It's because we're not producing. And when we are not producing, we cannot export. And when we are not exporting, we cannot earn foreign currency receipts. So we've got a problem of an economy that is consuming. And we consumed so much, my brother. If you go to Pick and Pay, if you go to, it comes from the Retailers Association, 60% of the products that are in the supermarkets are coming from outside. We've become a huge supermarket of South Africa and cheap Chinese, products.
In your opinion,
so there's a mismatch now between our consumption and our production.
Right.
That then creates a massive deficit in our capital account. That then creates a massive deficit in our current account. And that's the problem. So let's produce first. Then, as far as externalization is concerned, we need to deal with the definition of it. Because US dollar is legal tender. So the exchange control regulations of 1996 need to be amended. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Act needs to be amended to actually say to the public of Zimbabwe, what exactly do we mean by externalizing? Externalization must have a limited definition, which is getting money out without the permission of the Reserve Bank. If that is the case, then it's a totally different thing as opposed to externalization. Because strictly speaking, externalization is when you take money which is not your domestic currency and you get it out. But the US dollar is our domestic currency. And that's the legal problem that Emerson has.
It would seem that you're implying that it's an issue of semantics, that technically...
It's not a issue of semantics, it's a question of law.
Right.
It's a question of law. Foreign currency, in terms of Section 2 of the Exchange Control Regulations of 1996, is defined as the legal tender of another country.
Right.
So the regulations make a distinction between our local currency and foreign currency. But in 2009, we made the US dollar and other few currencies our local currency. So the exchange control regulations become meaningless when it comes to the US dollar, the British pound, the South African rand, and the euro and the renminbi. So the law needs to be revisited before you can classify someone as a criminal who is externalized and so forth, and that did not happen.
So then, is that not going to be a barrier that's going to come? Because the real question is, what happens next? What happens now that we've crossed this threshold of 90 days?
That's why there's been no meaningful return of money back into the country, because you are now trying to criminalize activities retrospectively when they were not criminal at the time that these actions were taking place. And remember, let's also separate, and this is why I've got a problem with the definitions.
Right.
Let's also separate another thing which I see problematic, the issue of illicit financial flows. I see it being mixed with externalization, but it's a totally different gamut. Illicit financial flows, and we've lost a lot of money. Between 2009 and 2013, we lost $3 billion US. You are now talking of things like transfer pricing, thin capitalization, and so forth. And a lot of companies are doing it, particularly the multinational companies. But that's an accounting process. It's different from physically taking money out of Zimbabwe and taking it to South Africa or Dubai or Hong Kong. So there's a problem of definitions,
right.
and which arrested the president's announcement at first instance, which has resulted in non-compliance,
right.
because nobody knows what he's talking about. Nobody knows what he's trying to criminalize. And as a constitutional lawyer, you cannot criminalize anything retrospectively. You cannot do that.
So in essence, potentially we could see some legal implications on those who will become prosecuted.
If they attempt to prosecute, yes. If they try to do that, because you can only externalize foreign currency,
right.
but the US dollar is no longer foreign currency in this country.
Right.
So it's a meaningless announcement, with great respect.
All right, then. I'm also joined in studio by Comrade Victor Matamadanda, who is joining us from the War Veterans Association. And there also were a few questions that I came in for you much earlier on today, which we'll address a bit later on. Your take on the 90-day moratorium?
First, I want to thank you for having me. But for Mr. Beatty, he talks of 6 billion at the end of the GNU.
6.5.
6.5. When that 6.5 goes out of the country, you expect something to come in exchange. And if nothing comes but the money is gone, what do we call that? Right. That's I'm not technically
right.
qualified, but when we talk of externalization, we are talking of the money that we had, which went out and procedurally, if
right.
you want, without bringing anything, for the purpose of maybe being stored or kept illegally out of the country.
Right.
I remember that when João, brought. In fact, what he said he did not understand about the indigenization laws.
Right.
We woke up the next day without money in banks and so forth.
Right.
And I don't think the process is legal. But while as a lawyer, you might be able to educate us on that. But for a layman, for a person like me, I think what happened to cause emptiness of money in banks and everywhere is what we presumed to be externalization.
Right.
But you talked of my take on 100 days. I think quite a lot has been done. And the first thing that I think is very important is to create a conducive environment for whatever operations, be it business or whatever, which the government is trying to give. And also the opening of the press. You have seen journalists from all over the world. They are coming. I think we are beginning now to see fair reporting, factual and fair reporting, which has not been the case during the Mugabe era. We have seen frank discussions, including the visit by the president to for the international investment. It was quite huge and big, and I think it was very successful. And if you visit any hotel today, you see there are many people coming. I am from one of our offices. I today received 3 delegations inquiring on investment. And I think this is quite positive, and this has not been happening. So the first thing that I think is important is the image that we have managed to create of our country internationally. I think the country is now in good standing.
Right.
But of course, we need to prove a lot of things, including the crucial, which the opposition will always talk about, how the elections are going to be conducted.
Right. Before I do get into the contribution from Mr. Beatty, I do want to also appreciate a point that you do raise about confidence in Zimbabwe. We did find a situation where funds would leave Zimbabwe because there was no confidence in actually putting them into our financial institutions here. Now, if locally people can't find, people have to be given a 90-day moratorium to return funds, surely that also speaks to the lack of confidence that locals in Zimbabwe have with our financial institutions. How do we see ourselves rectifying that particular problem moving into 2018?
Yeah, I think confidence begins on particular individuals tasked to do particular jobs, and also sincerity on the part of those that are dealing with it, including government. We must try and be as faithful, as trustworthy as possible. Of course, it naturally must take time because people have been under these situations where the truth was alien to the system of governance for quite some time. And I think it might take time for people to really be convinced that this time we mean it. But I can assure that we mean business.
All right then.
And unfortunately,
right.
if we are not going to be able to prosecute those that took money out, they need to be disability.
Right then. We'll get into the issue of prosecution. Mr. Beatty, you had a contribution that you wanted to make.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a few things to make, but let me just make a quick point.
Right.
To Comrade Matemadanda's statement that the $6.5 billion was lost to externalization. The biggest drainage to that $6.5 billion has actually been the Minister of Finance. The problem that Patrick had was that he created a situation that has never happened in modern history, where he used the central bank as a lender of first resort in providing an overdraft facility to the government itself. So you've had a situation where central government is in fact draining resources from a broke central bank. And the money of the central bank doesn't belong to the central bank, it belongs to depositors. So that has been the key issue, the key challenge to our fiscal mess. The huge budget deficit that is almost $4 billion, the huge domestic debt that is almost $7.2 billion. But I want to come to 100 days in action. And I'm very happy that I'm with Comrade Matemadanda, because on that great historic 18 November 2017, him and I spent the whole day together at Zimbabwe grounds. We were anticipating a new Zimbabwe, an inclusive Zimbabwe, an equal Zimbabwe, a Zimbabwe that talks to everyone. So when you ask him about the record of this government in the 100 days, he points out three key things that are very significant: that we are open to business, that the president had a successful trip to Davos, that even today he was talking to 3 investors, that every hotel is full of foreigners. That's fine. The dialogue that we seek as Zimbabweans is not a dialogue between us and Britain. It's a dialogue between yourselves and ourselves. And you refer us to opposition. We were not opposition on the 18th of November 2017. We were Zimbabweans. So the dialogue we are seeking with this regime is a dialogue amongst us Zimbabweans. The open to business we are looking for is an open to business between you and me as Zimbabweans. And there this regime has not walked the talk. We have to restore the social contract in Zimbabwe in meaningful terms. He was talking about the media. 37 years after independence, 30 years after independence, it's a crime that we still have one television station. And when you open that television, just like in the olden days where you used to see Comrade Dr. Amai, we are now seeing Mai Mnangagwa and Baba Mnangagwa dominating our news bulletin at 8 o'clock. I'm here in Capital. Capital is owned by the state. Across the road, there's ZFM, which is owned by Superman Dwanzira. In Beatrice Road, there's Star FM, again owned by the state. That's not acceptable 38 years after independence. We're talking about the police, your news bulletin, the new police commissioner apologizing to the loss of 2 lives. Why should the police still be killing people, three people in 5 days? And why should the police still send tear gas and cannon batons to striking students at the University of Zimbabwe? So the bottom line is that we need to walk the talk and craft a new society based on respect, based on inclusivity, based on acceptance, based on the lack of distinction between opposition and no opposition. We are Zimbabweans, and Zimbabweans first, and we are patriots first and foremost. And there's no Zimbabwean who is better than the other one. There's no Zimbabwean who is superior than the other one. So the biggest challenge which we are facing is the reconstruction of the social contract, which was collapsed by 37 years of dictatorship, which this government has not done anything. The president was in Davos the other day. A simple question was put to him: what do you say on of Gukurahundi? I would have expected a president of this country, not a president of ZANU-PF, to actually apologize for the atrocity that Gukurahundi was. I want to come to even the economy.
And I do want to allow you to come to the economy, but unfortunately we need to quickly get into our business brief. And yes.
On the economy, this regime thinks it is doing a lot. It has been very good at producing sound bites. We are opening for business. But the truth of the matter is that if you peel off the lipstick, underneath the lipstick, we still have the same status quo of predation, of exclusivity that existed before 21 November 2017. We have not walked the walk of structural reform. This economy is in comatose. It needs structural reform, and this government is yet to carry out the structural reforms that are required.
All right, then you have been listening to the Capital Drive. You're on Capi Talk 100.4 FM. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. I would have at least liked to have given some clarity to some of the points raised there by Mr. BT, especially in line with us being a state broadcaster, but also more importantly, appreciating that more contributions have been coming in on the WhatsApp platform. Feel free to keep interacting with us on 0717 777 and you can also now call us after past and also engage with the guests that we do have in studio. I am currently joined by the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tendai Biti, Secretary General of a War Veterans Association, Comrade Victor Matemadanda, and the Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers Board member, Mr. Alois Burutsa, who will also be speaking to a great length when we come back after the break. It is the Capital Drive here on Capi Talk 100.4 FM. Let's get straight into the business brief with Owen Kaura. Thank you so much for staying tuned to the Capital Drive here on Capi Talk 100.4 FM, Zimbabwe's first and only commercial talk radio station leading the conversation. It is our hot topic for discussion as we discuss the 90-day amnesty period lapse that is today around externalized funds in line with the ED 100-day policy. I am currently joined in studio by former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tendai Biti, Secretary General of the War Veterans Association, Comrade Victor Matemadanda, and Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers Board member, Mr. Alois Burutsa. Now, I do want to open up my first line of questioning to Mr. Burutsa, looking at earlier on we looked at what the potential benefits of this money coming back would be. Any sign of change that has taken place over the last 100 days with regards to retailers in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at what the government has been doing in the past 100 days, I think we've made some very good progress. If you look at, for instance, number one, the issue of confidence is very key to any economy. And our government has been saying the right things. I know Honorable BT calls them sound bites, but I think they've been saying the right words to the right people, to the international community, and I think also even in the local business community. The engagement that has been taking place between our government and business has been very encouraging. All of a sudden now we are seeing a lot of opening up. For us, just speaking on for us, we've had meetings with the Vice President Chiwenga. He called us in. We had meetings, and also I know for that the
productive meetings.
Yeah, very productive meetings. One of the meetings led to the reduction in the excise duty on fuel. That was a result of one of the meetings that we had with VP Chiwenga. So yes, the government is acting on that. On that. Also, if you look at things like the complete disappearance of police or roadblocks on the streets. That has also had a huge impact on the roads because, as you know, when people make deliveries, as retailers, our shops are throughout the country. It would take a lot of time for our deliveries to come through because of the endless roadblocks that were there, and it was affecting business in a very big way. Over the weekend I was in Shirugi. I literally drove there and back. I did not see a single roadblock. So that is good for business,
right.
Definitely. Also, the issue of the anti-corruption, government, yes, they've been talking about anti-corruption. Of course, a lot still needs to be done in terms of action on the ground, in terms of getting people actually brought to book for corruption.
Yeah,
convictions, I think, yeah. But I think also if you look through Parliament, there's been a lot of, people being taken to task in terms of what action they could have done before, and so forth. So that in that essence, action it's been done. Also, if you look at the issue of forex, as I mentioned earlier, for us is still a big challenge. The issue of fuel, the price in fuel, is still very high, and it's obviously leading to an increase in the cost of doing business.
So even the decline hasn't been significant enough?
No. The decline was not significant at all, because we're talking of 0.6.
Yeah, 0.6%.
Yeah, 0.06 cents. And so forth. And in fact, over the last few weeks, we've seen fuel going up again by about 4 cents. Though that has completely wiped out whatever benefit we'd seen.
So it's a mixed batch.
It's a mixed batch. Yeah, and also if you look at the issue of cash and in the bank, right, whereby people now, because as you mentioned earlier on, we need to bring back confidence in the banking sector. Because if I give you $100 now, I know for certain you're not going to deposit it in the bank because you know that you won't be able to take it out.
No confidence.
So, no confidence in the banking sector. So we implore government to also work a lot in restoring confidence in the banking sector. I think that's a big challenge, but that is something that people will see. So yes, in the 100 days, whereas the government has done a lot in its first 100 days, the ordinary man on the street will tell you that I'm not seeing much, because if I go into the bank today, I still cannot get my money.
Okay.
Right? And the industrialist will tell you that if I want to bring in my raw materials, I cannot get foreign currency. So those things, I think government needs to prioritize them so that at least people can actually see tangible change.
Okay, then. I do want to get into a few of the WhatsApp contributions that have been coming in. I did mention that we've now opened up our phone lines. You can also call us on 0717 777 or 495 or 112. Here's a comment that comes in. It said that this ultimatum is entirely targeted at the G40 cabal. I doubt if anything would befall any of the current leadership should they be found at fault. This is a political gimmick. This is from Huruba in Glenview 8. And I do want to address that contribution to Comrade Matema Danda. It seems as though that the assumption that comes from the general populace, and especially this particular comment, is that the externalized perpetrators are targeting more or less the G40 cabal. What's your take on that particular position?
I don't think that is true. But before that, I just want to comment on what Mr. Bitte said. Sure, on the 18th, we were together with Mr. Bitte. We even exchanged cards. And I didn't know that he was going to go to Britain without telling me that he was going to go to Britain. So it is actually him who started to do what we had not anticipated. And when your neighbor speaks bad about you to the other neighbor, you want also to go and clean yourself. So I think if we want to talk as Zimbabweans, we must be Zimbabweans in character. We should not expect others to be more Zimbabwe than us. Right. So I think it's true. What we had anticipated and what we had thought of something very inclusive, but not inclusive in the sense that I want or he wants, but inclusive in the sense that is possible and constitutional.
Right.
And I think we are still inclusive in that we are able to talk, we are able to share ideas. And I think this is what is important, which was not there before. But as for whether we should engage outsiders or insiders, that is for all Zimbabweans. If Mr. Bitte and Mr. The current MDC acting president goes to Europe to ask, as I was told, for more sanctions, then we must go and try to bust the sanctions there.
All right, then let's quickly take this call. Yes, hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. Please give us your name and where you're calling from in Harare.
Hello, my name is David. I'm calling from Mount Pleasant.
David in Mount Pleasant, type contribution.
For starters, your panel is constituted wrongly. Tendai Biti from the word go, these guys are going to fail. So he's not going to say anything that's going to be constructive. One. But Temadanda is too partisan. It should have gotten people who were very partial. Vasingatauri ziri anti-inangirigini. For starters, confidence.
David, are you implying that their opinions are not acceptable?
No, they are acceptable, but in this particular case,
and is that not what partiality is? When people come in with their own opinions, and then we can allow ourselves to express them.
Yeah, it's very true. It's true. I did it. Yeah. But what I want to say, if you head from the word go, when these guys patanga 100 days,
right?
It's not going to be successful.
Right.
It's a given. But to the issue,
right.
So the truth of the matter is confidence yapo yazoka tikatarisa what it was before nezavapo is funny a little bit iripo change, but I used to wombe maning what would really expect. Then if you go to funny issue at production, but inclusive government that's a production in industry or anything consumptive. Atina industry yakavhura pa inclusive government. Takanga tingopareneza tanga tinazo izvozvo, and it's still what is happening. But I think that's a contribution.
Thank you so much for your call. We appreciate hearing from you. We will be taking a few more calls. You can also get a hold of us on 495-112 or get a hold of us on 0717-777-777. Here's a contribution that comes in from Chido. It says, please help me understand when Mr. BT says structural reform, what does he mean? And we'll definitely have that question addressed. We do have another caller on the line. Yes, hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. Please give us your name and where you're calling from in Harare.
Yes, my name is Tony. I'm calling from Salvatore. Tony, yes, give us your contribution, yes,
Tony.
Ndakangotara kuti matemadanda ngavambomira zvekutaurisa sterek timboacta timboona action because right now panamboposta kati vari kunyanya kutanya vedefault. That's true because right now we have my issues evanhu vakaita sana Obert Mpopo anoenda muparliament anoramba answer my questions. Nothing is being done. Kweta issue ya Grace Mugabe yedegree rake rero iri kumhanyisa kuti gari ipo kuvanhu vachidzingwa mabasa. So at the end of the day tikuona kuti ma-G40 cabals ndo vari kutargetwa. Muvambobata vanhu vachina varimo vachona ivavo because no lot of people vakaba zvinhu handitika mangwana ndo musi wa1 ambona action timbomira zvekutaurira every day kuti chazoti chiti and the issue 100 days nyaya isiyo amungataura kuti 6 cents renga dzikepening ngekini per liter. How can gas inobata 35 cents per liter? Nangatenga mari fuel iyoyo. Azviite government pachakana 5 cents per liter. 35 cents yakawanda zisingaiti ngatare zviri realistic.
Tony, contribution. Thank you so much for your contribution. Tipa for the chance. Thank you so much. We do have another call on the line. It's hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. Please give us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, good day. How are you? I'm calling from Harare.
Mnoitwani?
Simba.
Simba in Harare, please tipa contribution.
Yeah, sure. Right. I've been listening to your conservation, right, but it's very unfortunate. Mr. Matemadanda Watoraka, he doesn't suit to be in that plenary session. Why I'm saying so, if you look, there is no any economic jargon that he's talking about. You would find he's just there to tell us more about the war variants and nothing else. You know, it's just too much propaganda with nothing out of it. So I would think to Honorable Beat, it's very unfortunate I can't say put them a proper fact like what you are saying. Those guys and that board member where he said confederations of what?
Of Zimbabwean retailers.
Yes, that guy is not objective, and he seems to be speaking from yes or I don't know fact. Because you can't be talking of a mere 36 cents drop. Whereas now if you check my substation right now, fuel you get the sense.
Right.
So there's no any positive impact that's coming from that. From that.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
All right, thank you.
All right, then I do want to get into a contribution on the WhatsApp platform before I allow my guests to respond. This one says, I think, Mr. BT, you are too emotional in airing out your views. Freedom does not mean that we must behave like animals or just do what we want. Violence and misbehavior isn't part and parcel of freedom. Then I feel that in everything that is being said, any economy cannot be miraculously changed only in 100 days, as has been put forward. Despite ED having associated with the past, it doesn't mean that he cannot do something and learn from Deng Xiaoping what he did in China. Now ED is trying, but some people are too busy pulling him down and the efforts that he's putting forward by criticizing him and what he is doing. I think that this does not do any justice at all. Now, bringing back our discussion to the main concern at hand here is that a moratorium was put forward that says that we're going to try and revive our economy by engaging people who have taken funds out. Honorable Tendai BT was highlighting earlier on that there's an issue there on the legality of those funds that were taken out. Is it really externalization, and if so, under what terms and conditions? And also appreciating the role of the economic players, that being the retailers and suppliers here in Zimbabwe, and how that would tie in. But also from a social policy level, just to clarify why we do have Comrade Victor Matemadanda here in studio, is that a lot of the transition that did take place also were catapulted by the War Veterans Association. So we can't disregard them from the shift in the new dispensation that we do have. So their opinions and their points in the discussion are highly appreciated. We will take one more call and then we'll get into a few more remarks. Hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. All right then. And now also on our social media platform, a few contributions are coming in. Hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. All right, then you can also call us on 495-112. That's 495-112. This is another contribution that comes in. It says that let's not sugarcoat a lemon pie. In Shona, they say, Mromo, Auzari, Nerwizi. 100 days, it's October. I see the ordinary person is suffering more than in October of 2017. Maybe Vatamadanda is getting his money from the bank, but not generally, not the generality of the people. That contribution coming in from Martin. I think we do have our callers. Yeah, yes, hello, you're live on the Capital Drive.
Hello.
Yes, hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. Right, tipe contribution.
Ini contribution yangu iri pa nyena wema degree atanja mutaura. Mutemo wenyu waitaura kuti inini mukabata vanhu muchasunga, but tikunzwa kuti vari kuti vakabata pamabills avo asi weti nyaya dzavari kupindira. Isusu taudzwa kuti vanhu vakasungwa ndozvatakamachira izvi.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution. Now, I do want to just to bring in Matemadanda on this particular issue, near prosecution. The action that's going to be taken on individuals. I know what Honorable Tendai BT was highlighting the legality of it there, but people are expecting results. Kuti vanhu vaudzwa 90 days.
Shamisa pamtemo. You find that most of these people were going to G40 or ZANU-PF who have been arrested are all being represented by MDC associated lawyers, and people do not want to talk about that. But this law, I think Mr. B to be able to tell us better. The Roman and Dutch law has got its processes. Once a person is arrested, taken to court, it is now up to the court to decide how they go further. It is not up to the government. It's not up to the dispensation. So the fact that people were arrested means that action is being taken.
Right.
And some people are complaining that degree Ramai Mugabe vanhu vari kusungwa, this and that. Vari kuda kuti pasungwe ani kana pachitaurwa degree riri kunzi harisire chokwadi. Vananyagura vari kukweseniwa, vana those other people, they are being questioned because they are associated to the commission of the crime. Saka indiri kufunga kuti izvozvo ndozvoda kusapotiwa nevanhu veZimbabwe. But tikada individual issues, we might be disappointed.
Okay.
Because people are not going to be taken to court the same day. They are not going to be arrested the same day. Umwe noumwe anosungwa nengo according, I think, to evidence gathered, because the police do not arrest to investigate. They investigate to arrest. So before completion of investigation, they might not be able to arrest a person. The anti-corruption, people are doing quite a lot of work, and unfortunately, it depends on who they arrest or they target. And kuti munhu wacho ane what amount of support outside. People want individuals, but unfortunately that is not going to happen. Vamwe vari kutaura what happens in parliament. Parliament is where laws are made, and I know of a person who disobeyed the parliament and was sentenced. So parliament has got powers, and those powers have not yet been exhausted, and yet people are not patient to see where parliament is going. And we cannot rule a country just like that. Right. We have to follow our own laws. And the police, the courts, the parliament, all are following the laws that we put in place.
All right, we will get back to a few more calls shortly. Madenda, are you, as Secretary General of the War Veterans Association of Zimbabwe, happy, I think if I could use a lighter word, happy with the manner in which the new dispensation is handling the country moving forward at the moment, looking at the 100 days and looking at this 90-day moratorium? Are you satisfied by the work that is being done?
Yes, there is a lot of work being done, but the problem is that...
Is it satisfactory?
It is. It is. But I want to say that we seem to have missed a point where we want to pull as a nation, not as political parties. But the problem in Zimbabwe is that we always oppose for the sake of opposing. When one is pulling this away, the other one is pulling the other way. And at the end of the day, we stall our development. But I think for an economy that was almost empty in November to be where I'm told it is at the moment, I think quite a lot has been done.
Right. Okay. Let's just quickly take this call. Yes, hello, you're live on the Capital Drive. Please give us your name and where you're calling from in Harare.
Hi, my name is Ruvimbo. I'm calling from Borodal.
Yes, Ruvimbo, please give us your contribution.
I just want to say, the new government is doing very well. Unfortunately, the issues that affect the most people will take time to be addressed. So the economy is starting. We actually have one to speak about, which we were getting to a point where we didn't. But Nyaye cash, until people see cash, it will look like nothing is happening. And the problem is that we have so much debt issues that need to be solved. I don't think we as Zimbabweans are getting a full appreciation of where we are in our economy. And the lack of information will continue to make it seem like and people will just yap without knowing what they're talking about. So government needs to sort out this lack of information. We need to know what's happening. We need to know what they're doing, what they're planning. Or even Mari Kudzoga.
That's it. No,
so information, the lack of information is where they're failing. Let's say things are starting to move. We need a foundation. It'll get somewhere. But information.
Ruvimbo, thank you so much for your contribution. All right, then I will read one more contribution on our WhatsApp platform. Then I'll allow our guests to give us their closing remarks. What an intellectual, Mr. BT. You are opening the eyes of many. Where were you all along? The problems most of us have blinkers. That's why Zimbabwe Yakafa sound bites proves by people in the streets. Money changes are increasing instead of fixing things. That contribution coming in from Chamu. Now, Honorable BT, you did highlight earlier on a few ramifications that could come from the decision that was made by the president on this 90-day moratorium, but also picking up on the fact that there are more issues than money that was externalized and those tied into the economy. Bearing that in mind, and that being the case, do you believe that the new dispensation has taken an adequate step towards including the minds and contributions of the opposition in ensuring that we do charter ourselves into what has been referred to as a new dispensation? Also looking at some closing remarks.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think that Comrade Victor, who is here, as a deputy minister in this government and also as a liberator, must listen carefully to what Zimbabweans are saying, including even the representative from the Retailers Confederation. People on the ground are suffering. People on the ground want real change. But the real change requires structural reforms, of which we haven't seen anything other than sound bites, other than slogans. And when we say these things, Comrade Victor, we are not saying these things because we are opposition. And I know Comrade Victor, he's a firebrand speaker. I've seen him do things today which I've never seen him do. Kustama. That's not the Comrade Victor that I know. We want you back, Comrade, to talk about the people, the things that are affecting our people. The economy has been tanking up since November of 2017. Domestic debt has increased to $7.8 billion. The budget deficit alone is sitting at $4 billion. Today is the 28th of February, 2 months. Between January and February, today, this government has spent offline, in other words, below the budget, over $1 billion. These are real things. They are spending money as if money grows on trees. It doesn't grow on trees. Industries are not opening up. Your previous caller was saying money changers are increasing on the street. It is true. Vendors are increasing on the streets. It is true. Cross-border jumpers are increasing on the street. It is true. So we need to go back to the drawing board, Comrade Victor. We need to find the spirit of 18 November 2017 and say, how do we recraft our country forward? How do we carry it forward? How do we reconstruct this country forward and carry everyone on board? This business, you're now calling us labels, you are now giving us tags, doesn't work. The country is in deep structural problem. It requires deep structural solutions by everyone. My last point is the selective application of the law. It's very hypocritical for the government to say we are pursuing an anti-corruption matrix in this country when the the symbols of corruption are walking around.
Okay.
This country lost the $15 billion worth of diamonds, and some of the characters associated with that theft, including the esteemed Minister of Police, Comrade Obed Mpofu, are walking free. These are the things that cause a lot of us problems. If there's going to be a policy, let it be applied equally, impartially, and exclusively.
Right. On that
and
note,
not selectively. And that's the impression which the ordinary people, the Wananji, the Walalahoi, have out there. This government must come clean. This government must be a government for everyone. Emerson Mnangagwa, in
unfortunately,
particular,
I do have to cut you off there,
the president of Zimbabwe,
because we have to allow also for others to contribute as we wrap up our discussions. Thank you so much for that comment there. Buruta, your final contribution.
Yeah, look, I think, yes, the government has done a lot. In 100 days is not a long time, but if we continue on this current trajectory that we are moving, I'm sure we'll be able to turn around this economy, and let us continue bringing in confidence and building confidence in the international community, in the local business community, and this economy will certainly turn around. Thank you.
That's it. Comrade Matimadan.
I appreciate what Mr. Beat is saying, and I think from tomorrow, you will begin to visit offices to offer advice, other than wait and see what he thinks is wrong going on. This is the spirit we want, but the president is open. He has invited everyone who has capacity. Anyone who wants to contribute has been called to do so, and I don't know why they are not doing it. So let's all embrace and do what we must be able to do, or what we should do as Zimbabweans.
That's it. I'd like to thank my guest in studio, former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tendai Biti, Secretary General of the War Veterans Association, Comrade Victor Matimadanda, and Confederation of Zimbabwean Retailers Board Member, Mr. Alois Burusa. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on the Capital Track.
Follow the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @Capitalk FM.